So hi, Sharath. So Sharath is pronounced right.
Adam, you did it perfectly. Thank you.
What was your first computer?
Oh my goodness, a Commodore VIC-20.
Oh, I had it as well. So this was my dream was C64. I got the VIC-20 later. I started with Static Spectrum. So what you did with the computer?
Having a family of computer programmers and engineers in my house, the first thing I did was actually do a literal Hello Me app, which was to say hello to my sister.
No kidding.
Yep, I wrote a very short application that said, "Hello, Sarita," which is my sister's name, and it showed the text in bold and color on the screen. Nothing too complicated, but when you're 9 years old, I thought I was launching a rocket to the moon.
But that's great. And you didn't want it to play or some games, just the what are you a natural
Eventually,
how it's called natural born programmer, right?
yeah, so naturally that evolved into simple pixelated gaming, moving from the VIC-20 to the C64 to the TI-99. And it opened my eyes. So gaming is interesting because I think it's opened the doors to programming for a lot of people in the world. Like for me, my appreciation or my interest in programming came from playing games.
Uh-huh.
How do they work? Well, what is in the background? What is creating that rendering? What is creating that sort of complex layer upon layer on the screen? And it just created a curiosity. But I was lucky. My father was an aerospace engineer, so he was using CAD CAM. He was doing aerospace designs and wing structures on the computer. My mother worked for NASA
Oh,
for
nice.
many years. And so she was doing a lot of things that were related to orbital flight paths for satellites and the space shuttle and things of that nature. So, my interest in gaming was supported by the fact that I had parents that were already very strong and passionate and experienced programmers. But, just because of that didn't mean I went into programming. My paths diverged from that sort of technical lens. I actually was studying to be an economics major in
Okay,
college.
but you still is it true? So you started with Hello World, right?
I
Was
started the Hello World.
not just launching a game, you started Hello World. And this was your choice, or you were like gently forced by your parents?
I was encouraged
Encouraged. Oh,
that
encouraged. Okay.
this I was encouraged that programming, playing with a computer, touching a keyboard, would be entertaining
Okay.
and rewarding. But every parent wants to uh, direct their children in something that's of value, but make it fun at the same time. And so I was encouraged to do that. But I studied economics and finance in college. I didn't actually become more formal with programming until 1993. Right,
Okay.
so I was
So,
already
but the
what
question before you study, are you just playing games, or you learn to programming with basic or whatever?
basic, a lot of basic, a lot of VB,
Okay.
and I was more fascinated with the front end versus
Okay.
what's happened in the back end. Like to me, being somewhat of a amateur artist, I like to see how I can make things look visually more appealing,
Okay.
um, and things that were 8-bit, 16-bit back in that generation. The level of complexity was handcuffed by the state that technology was in. But still, I was always like, what can I do on this palette? And the monitor was my palette. I wanted to put as much color there and rendering there and interactivity there. And even though that's where I went.
One question regarding complexity. So what you said right now is that back then, this is what I understood. It was simpler than now, but I don't think so. I mean, right now, probably you are as a programmer developer, you are involved in at many things at the same time, but each of the things is pretty simple. I would say. For me, server-side Java is simple. Even clouds are simple. Databases are actually simple. You can keep it simple, or you can make it really complicated. Back
You
then,
can.
it was probably the basic was not that simple because there was no Stack Overflow. So you had to learn it from books. And for me, like pick and pokes were magic, black magic. I was completely, confused how to get, the numbers from pick and pokes. So I heard often now everything is more complicated, but I don't believe so, right?
You bring up a good point. When we looked at whether it's you or myself or anyone that's been in programming for over a decade or more,
yeah,
learning was a challenge, right? You didn't have this notion of peer-to-peer sharing and collaborating and understanding best practices and use cases transparently. Even in Java, going back 20 plus years, we knew the way the platform and the language would evolve is if we had greater participation.
Yeah.
Because the more participation you have, the more perspective you have.
Yeah.
Number one. But number two, think about all of the things that we don't have to do by hand anymore because someone has already innovated.
Yeah.
Someone's already created a library. Someone has already created a framework. I don't have to do that on my own anymore.
Yeah.
And we're lucky that Java has such a rich collection of libraries and frameworks that we as developers can just pick up and use and make our life much easier.
Yeah, exactly. So, okay. So you did a lot of basic. Was there any other language in VB you said until your study
VB.
Or something else? Turbo Pascal or Delphi or whatever?
A little bit of Pascal.
Okay.
But that's only because of, my mother was that's where she learned her center of programming universe. But, the fact that she worked in the government, there was a lot of COBOL and Fortran that I'd get exposed to. And boy, that took time to get used to.
But why you did it? I mean, what was your motivation to learn programming before you study?
It was more because my parents pushed me in that direction. They wanted me to, no matter what I did, they wanted me to still have some foundational technical aptitude, because it has applicability in anything you do. Yeah. I mean, even in business, you think about, running the worlds of finance in the world, think about all the algorithms that are happening in the background, all the computations that are occurring in microseconds or milliseconds. It's like there's a technical layer to what's happening in front of us. And the more you understand about that, it makes your approach to the career a bit more easier to understand. Right? Okay. You're taking away some of the complexity by doing that. And so I'm very fortunate that I had very forward-looking parents that had an open mind to multiple technologies, to multiple areas of study, and the fact that they entrenched in me that no matter what you do, technology evolves the world. Yeah. Right. So my parents grew up in a world where, making a phone call was a laborious process.
Yeah. Yeah. With some cables involved, probably, right?
Some cables, some copper wire. You had to turn some rotary dial. Yeah. You had to hear the clicking in the background. Some connection is going through some server somewhere.
Or even operators, right? There were phone operators.
Yeah. Some cities you couldn't even make a connection without going through, someone making the actual connection to the house. And when I joined the telco industry, telecommunications, that's what really opened my eyes to programming. So
wait a second. I was with regardless of your parents, but this strategy is a little bit dangerous, right? Because if parents tell you something, usually the natural reaction is, I don't like that, right? So the question is it a good strategy to gently encourage the kids to program? That's the question number one, or let them, play games or whatever and wait what happens. It's also dangerous because if you wait too long, nothing will happen, right? So
yeah, that's a interesting perspective. I would say, 10, 20 years ago, that may have been a quote unquote dangerous path to take. But this generation, this environment we now live in, children are exposed to technology at a ever increasing younger age. And they don't even realize how much they are already learning in terms of the value of technology. And I've seen, 5-year-olds being able to manipulate and operate a smartphone better than some adults.
Yeah.
Because it's already been introduced to them as something natural, that's not challenging, that's not hard. And so the earlier you expose technology or anything to a child, they will pick it up much faster. They
Yeah,
will think of it as somewhat normal versus
exactly.
a barrier.
But I think the normal could be the problem because for me, computers was like no technology from outer space. For me, it was like this something's magical thing which, if you have it, you have everything you could imagine. And right now, computer is just like a knife, just a tool. So I mean,
It is.
yeah. But for us, it was for me at least, computers were really exciting, and even Java, I know everything. So this was a stop maybe a few years ago, but it was really exciting because it was special. And now it is hard to teach, kids programming because if they already have iPads and smartphones, they already look great. If you show them if else statement hello world in Java on a green screen, it is not that exciting as it was before, right? This is the challenge.
It is. It's not. It's what I would call an evolving approach.
Yeah,
And so, just like technology evolves, the way we teach also needs to evolve. It
exactly.
can't stay static, and that's why I'm so encouraged to see things like Minecraft. Minecraft is a
Yeah,
great example.
yeah.
It's teaching children through the lens of video gaming,
Hmm.
of having fun, and they don't even realize that they're learning.
Yeah,
They're learning. They're building up the basic understandings of modules and components and classes and libraries and binding
hmm,
and execution and debugging when something doesn't work out right. And they view it through the lens of I'm just having fun.
yeah. But they have to
And
create extensions, right? In Minecraft,
yeah,
if you just play Minecraft, nothing will happen. So something like
right.
maybe Alexa skills, something like this. If you play with it, this could be more like back then, right? So you can interact with the computer in different ways, or AI. If you have just a model which you can interact with, could be also interesting right now, right? So
I couldn't agree with you more. There's a overused phrase that says the world is your oyster. And I think for kids nowadays, this next generation, we keep saying next generation, but I think that's somewhat of a misleading term because the next generation has been happening for many years.
yeah,
But in this modern era of development, I'm very positive on the future that, when me, myself, or others who've been doing this for 20 plus years, when we pass that baton on, I think we're passing it on to a generation that's ready to pick up and stand on our shoulders to do something even better.
yeah,
Because access to technology is easier than it was in our generation. It doesn't mean it's completely easy. We need to ensure that technology is accessible to regions of the world that need more accessibility and openness. That's our responsibility as developers. So I view technology as an open democracy. Everyone should have access to it. There should
yeah.
be no barriers, and it's up to us to foster that. But I have a lot of hope that the next generation are going to do even bigger and better things. But I will say this, Adam, I do hope that the next generation, the children that are immersing themselves in technology or becoming programs, understand that what they do should benefit versus hurt. Like
Yeah.
there's an ethical component to everything we do nowadays, and I want kids to know that whatever they program, whatever they build, whatever they develop should be helpful to society versus hurtful.
Yeah.
And that's a struggle because so many people think innovating is helpful. Innovating sometimes is harmful.
Yeah. But it always was. It always was, right?
Right. And
Yeah.
and, and so it's important that we instill in children in primary and secondary and even college that programming and innovation and technologies is useful. Innovation is useful only if you use it in moral ways.
Yeah.
Because if it's done in immoral ways, then it hurts.
Yeah, of
If it
course.
renders hurt, then is that truly innovation?
What may happen, so what is also could happen is that, the new generation would like to go offline or would don't like computers at all. Because, with all the, I don't like social, no overuse or whatever, it is actually boring. And now going outside and playing with the nature is also interesting. So what could happen is now that
Absolutely.
the new generation will observe, us playing with the smartphones and I know typing text messages back and forth. And if you watch us, observe us from the outside, it's completely stupid. We spend more time, with on glass than observe the world. And my hope is that you say, okay, now stop that. Just go outside and leave us alone with the old AR and VR or whatever. This would be my hope, not more, just less. And this could happen like a revolution in the completely different direction. I would say.
Yeah, I think you've introduced a very important point, and the acronym you used, AR, artificial reality, augmented reality,
exactly.
is not reality.
Yeah.
In its name itself, augmented, it means it's not the real thing. And so we need to ensure that, as we evolve the world around us that's immersed in technology, that there is a world outside of that.
Yeah.
And we can't lose sight of that, because what makes us human is our humanity. It can't be replaced with digits and byte code and applications. We need to ensure that the human condition continues forward. Technology should extend it.
Yeah.
It should not replace it.
Okay. So now you started economy, you said. Now the question, why you did it? Because there was too much programming or too much encouragement, or was it like a rebel, or why?
Yeah, no, it wasn't so much a rebel, in my, and it's sort of, I carry this forward in what I do right now in my current role. So I do a lot of developer advocacy, as it's now known as, or evangelism. I consider it outreach. I find value, inspiration, meaning in helping others.
Yeah.
And when I was studying economics, I studied a very specialized field, which was third world economics.
Okay.
Which was, how do we, as first world nations, develop and create resources to help third world nations become first world nations?
Mm-hmm.
So collectively, it's our responsibility as capitalists to invest in other parts of the world to allow them to achieve the same level of success that we already have.
Yeah.
And so I was looking at it from that standpoint as a career, as how do we as business leaders invest in areas that don't have access to the resources that we are so privileged to have.
Mm-hmm.
And so I carried that same ethos into my technical career, after studying technology, building some applications, joining Sun, never thought that would happen. Living in this world of Java for so many years, I was able to evolve that passion that I had for helping others into the technology side, which is, a lot of the advocacy that I do. Here's how I view my role.
By the way,
my role is,
this regarding capitalism. I don't know whether you know, but I had a guest called Scott McNeely on this podcast, and we had discussion about capitalism, which was very important, very, very interesting. So, and regarding capitalism, as my point of view is, you can improve the world if just if it makes sense, and it's not always not only good. I mean, from the capitalistic perspective, right? Capitalism perspective, I think the only thing how capitalism can grow is to invest in, poorer countries. Because, and if you do this is good, and you can justify it to your bosses and managers, whatever, we have to do it because of growth or whatever, right? But if you just will do it because it's good, you will probably lose. The same was, with electric cars back then. I say with the all-electric movement, forget it. What we have to do is, like if Formula One will use electric cars and they do great noises and if 3,000 horsepower or whatever, then the youth will watch this, say this is actually cool, and they will buy the car. But if you try to sell the electric car as something good but boring, you will lose. So I think the ability is to couple the goodness with some sense, or how to call it, with a logical explanation, and then you will win, I think, right?
Yeah, and that's the beauty of what I feel, which is why I have continued the journey with Java. And what I mean by that is the early founders of Java. You look back at like James Gosling and Patrick Naughton and Mike Sheridan and Tim Lindholm and Bill Shannon and John Gage. Some names we recognize, some names might get lost to history, but they realized very early on that participation matters. Mm-hmm. And so I think the vibrancy of Java will continue to shine if we extend it to others. Mm-hmm. They then have a desire to then contribute back. And there's many ways you can contribute back to Java. You can download an early access release and give us feedback. You can become a committer or an author to OpenJDK. You yourself can go and teach and extend your skills to others in different avenues. You can join a user group and then have sort of peer-to-peer sharing. That has a lot of similarities to this notion of a first world nation contributing to third world nations, which is let's help bring everyone up together and contribute equally to better the overall ecosystem. And that's why I view my role as that of a Sherpa. Mm-hmm. And some people might not be familiar with the term Sherpa, but a Sherpa is someone who helps a mountain climber reach a summit because they know the mountain, they know the path, but they are helping someone else achieve their goal. And so I view my role as a Sherpa in the Java ecosystem. My job is to help others reach their summit. And
the cool story is the really Sherpas, they reach, the Mount Everest a couple of times without a big deal, and the heroes were the people who, did nothing. They walked one time up the hill and they were the heroes, but the Sherpas were the true heroes, because they did it over and over again without equipment, without, they just did it without thinking about that. This is the cool story about Sherpas.
Yeah, that's right. Exactly. But see, the role of a Sherpa is that almost of a teacher, which is we want to get the most ability out of the talent someone has.
Yeah.
We want them to succeed. And so it's not about me and others in my role, in similar roles, whether they're advocates in Java or other technologies. We as advocates, we as evangelists want others to achieve the best version of them in the ecosystem or the community they run in. And so I take satisfaction when I've helped someone reach the summit. And if they get the accolades or if they get the recognition or they get the visibility, I consider that doing my job. I've done my job because I've helped someone else achieve that is important to them. And so I don't look at it as a negative. I mean, every teacher only wants the best for their students. And to me, the community is basically my students. The ecosystem is my students. I want all of the developers in the world, especially in the Java ecosystem, to be the best version of them. I take reward in that.
No, this was just, you mentioned Sherpas, and this is what I immediately, thought about the Mount Everest.
Right.
Question to you, because it's incredible. So I just look it up. This was the podcast episode number 50 from this podcast. And I don't know whether you know. So to save time, I gather the entire month's questions and I answer the questions at once in a free show. This is right after the podcast called Airhacks TV. And people all over the world join the live streaming show. And we have interaction, which is really nice. So I do it for 5 years right now. And what happened was really incredible. So I know a guy, his name is Matthias Reinig, and he hired me once, for code review in Germany. So I did the code review and forgot about him. And a few years later, I pinged him. I saw on Twitter, I should invite you to a podcast because to talk about Java and stuff like that. And during the podcast, we had a conversation. And what happened is that at the Airhacks TV show, I explain, architectures and stuff like that. And I explain the same things, as commercial project to the guy in Germany. And someone in Africa listened to my show and wrote and wanted to work for the company in Germany. And the guy invited him, so I come to us. And he, during the interview, wrote down the entire architecture. And the German guy asked him, how how our architecture look like, right? And the applicant from Africa say, because I watched the Airhacks TV show. And I say, okay, you are in. And now, he will probably listen to the show. This is like incredible how small the world is. And the guy is working from Africa, is working at the company for Germany. And he hired 2 other African guys because they were, and they create great things, the simple Java way without any external dependencies, what I usually do. But this is incredible. If you think about this, how likely is such a thing that someone from Africa listens to me, applies to a company where I was before, and then, he knew out of what I said in Airhacks TV, he did it, and the company used my idea of architecture, and they applied and works in Germany.
But isn't that what's so beautiful is
this
how
is crazy. This is really crazy.
We are breaking down barriers to foster greater collaboration, to do knowledge transfer that has benefit. And what you just mentioned, whether it's in Africa or South America, Southeast Asia,
Yeah.
Some parts of Eastern Europe, all of these markets that may not have been traditional in terms of where to pursue talent.
Yeah.
That talent has always been there. We just have to open the door to allow them to enter, right?
Yeah.
So this is not just about creating diversity. It's about creating inclusion. So I think the world, as we know, is very diverse. We just need to ensure that there's inclusion in that world. And what you just summarized is a great example of that inclusion.
Yeah, I mean, programmer is a programmer, right? So the discussion, inclusion, exclusion. I mean, programmer is a programmer who, regardless from where she or he is coming, no one should care. So what I never got, programmer is one of the few professions where you can actually, which doesn't matter. Nothing matters. You only need a keyboard and you can program. There may be, other professions which require, very specific skills, whatever. But I mean, programming is programming. I mean, if you like it, you can do it regardless where are you right now. And with the old pandemic, now we can show that we can actually even work remotely, right? So this is right. Proven fact, right? So, okay.
Yeah, so, and your programming language of choice, that is your tool, right?
Yeah.
That is your tool.
With lots of fun. With lots of fun, right? Yeah.
Lots of fun. I'd like to quote someone, and this person may not be known very well in the Java ecosystem, but she's known very well in the technology ecosystem. Her name is Kim Bannerman.
Okay.
And Kim Bannerman does a lot of advocacy across the industry for multiple languages, but she has a saying which I think is very profound, which is people first, technology second.
Yes.
And if we identify with each other first, create that common ground and connection, being able to then share on the technology side becomes much easier. And so, we can't lose sight, as you had mentioned before, let's not lose sight that, there's a humanity to everything we do. For technology to have value and innovation, it has to be connected on people first. And, if Kim's listening, or if she ever listens, I just want to give her that plug because, her mantra, I carry with me every day. It is very meaningful, and I hope it's meaningful for all the listeners as well.
Yeah, but I mean, this is again, people first. It sounds like almost like a missionary. Someone like a preacher says that. But if you are a little bit more nicer to the others, it comes back and you have more fun. Right? It's not like this is what I wanted to tell. So if you just looking grumpy to your machine and try, to conquer the world with, I don't know, your keyboard, maybe you will achieve that with not lots of fun. But if you people first, if you go to middle ground, I mean, we have to live 100 years or whatever, and then we'll die. So I mean, one strategy is to have the most fun during the 100 years. And the other would be, I don't know, to fight everyone and just show that you are right. So I would choose the first strategy, because it's more fun, right?
But think about this, right? So, the original founders of Java, the people that really built it, realized that it is people that matter. And just think how vibrant our ecosystem, our community is.
Yeah, but come back to this, because you are the conversation becomes too interesting. So I would like to start somehow with Sun and Java. So what I wanted to learn from you, university. So you did the economy. We mentioned the strategy. What happens after your university time?
So graduated, I became part of the technology, or I should say the telecommunications industry.
Yeah.
I worked with a teleco company called Bell Atlantic. Many people will forget the names of these companies, but it was one of the telecom companies here that provided landline copper wire communications to both commercial and residential.
And great research, right? Bell Labs, for instance.
Bell Labs, that's right. That's right. And at the time when I joined, I was part of the team that was, I guess you would call it mergers and acquisitions. So we would go explore the market for companies that we should either partner with, acquire, or consider buying IP. But that was also the start of this revolutionary change in communications. Right. So we went from landline to mobile. And that first instance of mobile was feature phones, and you had multiple handset manufacturers, all with different standards. And we, as as a telecommunication company, knew early on that phones were the gateway for the next generation of applications and solutions. And so that's what really piqued my interest. And so I was lucky enough to have a mentor at Bell Atlantic, which, by the way, Bell Atlantic acquired a company called GTE.
Mm-hmm.
Some people might remember GTE. We also acquired a company called Nynex, another telco.
Mm-hmm.
And by combining these three companies, we rebranded ourselves to Verizon, what the world knows as Verizon today. And so in that journey, I started learning more about this mobile side, this online side. And I started taking evening classes, going back the path that my parents wanted me to do originally. And then picked up my programming skills by doing night school as sort of like an adjustment to my career. And so I wanted to learn how to better emulate applications on feature phones. If you remember, every phone had a different renderer. You had to have an emulator, and then you would test on that emulator before you deployed it actually on the handset. And then the carrier had to host the application. And so that's how I got exposed to Java, because at that time there was no programming language that did that easily. And the original creators of Java, I started learning a little bit about mobile and embedded clients and this whole world of what you could do through that lens. And I attended the first JavaONE. Some of you might remember the JavaONE conference, but 1996, I was lucky enough to be with the team from Verizon that sent its employees all the way from New York to California for this conference called JavaONE. And I'm like, where am I? What is this? And at that point, going to Java, I was hooked. Because to me, I got immersed in the technology, but I got immersed in the community. I was able to talk to the actual people that was developing the language. And it was more, of this, they embraced me, they embraced all of the attendees. And, 4 years later, Sun Microsystems, for some reason, said, "Hey, Sharith, will you come join our team?" I mean, how can I can't even process that even today. It's been
how it happened
20 years.
So you started after JavaONE, you started Code Java at Bell Labs? Or
I started at Verizon. So I was part of the team that was doing application testing on handsets. And we had to work with all the device manufacturers, the Sony, Ericsson, the Nokia. There were a litany of handset manufacturers, Motorola. And so I was part of the team that was doing application testing of third-party apps that Verizon wanted to host to offer their customers on their carrier service. And I was a tester. I was testing applications, right? And next thing I know, let's flash forward 4 years from 96 to 2000. In September of 2000, I get a random email. Like, how does this even happen? Someone from Sun, like, I'm from the NetBeans team, and we all know NetBeans as an IDE. We're looking for someone that has worked in the community, that has built programs, done outreach, but understands sort of like the mobile space. And that conversation just continued forward. After a few months of dialogue back and forth, they extended me a job offer in December of 2000, and I started. Still remember this. My first day at Sun Microsystems was January 8th of 2001. I accepted my offer in December. I started in January. I was part of the NetBeans team, where they were looking at that time, how do we integrate all of our IDEs? Because, they had the tooling from JavaSoft. They had Forte. You might remember Forte.
Forte for J.
Then they had NetBeans. How do we combine all of these tools, especially for mobile, to accelerate application development, number one, but two, build out a program so third-party vendors could make their plugins available to kind of reduce that friction, so a developer doesn't have to do all of that work by hand, by scratch. And so we built out the NetBeans plugin program, and we had multiple vendors that would offer modules that we would serve up through the IDE. But then, the job changed, and then I started working on a tool called Java Studio Creator. Some might remember that.
So you moved from New York to San Francisco? Not San Francisco?
So in that transition, I was in New York. I moved back to my home state of Maryland. In that 4-month span, when I was still talking to folks from Sun Microsystems. And then once they offered me the job, I moved from Maryland all the way out to Oakland. because
Some,
the NetBeans team was actually the U.S. division of NetBeans was based in Oakland.
oh, didn't know that.
And so, at that time, I was already part of Sun, but the NetBeans office for Sun was in Oakland. So yeah, I as they say, I loaded up the wagons and I moved west.
Yeah.
And I've been west for the last 20 years.
Who was on the team? Also, how big was the team back then? You remember roughly?
So the NetBeans team, because the engineering team was still in Prague, because that's where NetBeans was. So the U.S. based team, there were some folks in the East Coast, if I remember, in New Jersey and Pennsylvania, but the majority of the U.S. based team was in California. I think maybe there was 40 of us.
Okay.
40. Some might remember some names like Tim Boudreau, Geertjan Welinga, Yuri, Rychek, a few others, Mark Herring, Dan Roberts. I mean, these are all the folks that were working both on Forte and NetBeans. But I would say we were about 40 people in California. Pretty small team. But again, the center of engineering excellence was all in Praha.
Yeah, exactly. We had already our podcast Jaroslav Tulach. So how NetBeans happened, So we covered the entire history of NetBeans. I was just curious.
Yeah, and I love NetBeans. It's the IDE I was first introduced to. But what inspires me so much is we as Java developers have choice.
Yeah,
which is great. Like whether you use IntelliJ or Eclipse or NetBeans, Apache NetBeans, you have variety. You have a choice. It's not sort of like one vendor, one tool. It's refreshing that we as developers can pick the tools that best suit our needs.
Yeah.
And I think that's very liberating.
Yeah. What I like about NetBeans is it's very easy to use right now. So this is the very convenient to use 2 shortcuts and you're ready to go. Control space and Command Enter. And I will actually show a NetBeans at the next AXTV because someone from Africa actually has the question at some deployment problem. So I will hack a project from scratch and show how it works with Apache NetBeans 12.1.
Yep.
Yeah. Nice. Yeah.
Hey, let's also give credit to Apache for taking on the project when it was donated to them. They've done a fantastic job. They really have. You always get worried when another foundation picks up a technology, what's going to happen with it. But my credit to the Apache team for what they're doing to keep NetBeans current and vibrant in that mix of options in terms of IDE and choices. Yeah,
and now it's really great because now they have even a native installer for the Mac. So now it feels like, so now it's very convenient to install even. So it's, it works nice. Okay, so you spend your time at NetBeans. I didn't know that. So I knew that you somehow like NetBeans, but I had no idea that you have worked actually for the NetBeans team. So you spent your entire time at NetBeans? At Sun Microsystems?
So NetBeans, and then built out the plugin program for NetBeans. Then we started working on yet another new tool called Java Studio Creator.
I have this CD. I have Java Studio Creator and Java Studio Workshop. So I have 2 origin CDs from Sun Microsystems.
So do you remember the code name for Java Studio Creator? There's a code name for the project.
No, but tell it, say it.
Sure. It was called Project Rave, R-A-V-E.
Yeah.
Project Rave was the code name, which was great because, at that time when we were starting the project, many of us in the team were actually huge Rave fans.
Okay.
Like we loved Rave
This
music.
what I remember. Rave I remember, but what I also know is if you go to the Java Studio Creator, let's say Java Studio Creator was later. What I'm talking about, this is what I remember Rave. There was a Sun Java Studio and Sun Java Workshop, which were IDEs before NetBeans. This is what I talk about. Right. This is what I confused. And I have these CDs, and on YouTube, a few years ago on Christmas, I just recorded a show with the old IDE, and the Java Studio was like a Java Beans IDE where you can now connect the pipelines. And if you go to About Box, you saw a picture with all the developers. So a true picture still works. And the 2 IDEs were so fast on my machine. It was incredible. So I had an old Windows machine and they were just screaming. Rave, I remember, because this was already announced at JavaONE. So it was a lot later. Exactly. You said year 2000. So what I'm talking about was probably 1998. this studio workshop?
790, yeah, 97. So Java Studio Workshop.
Yeah,
So somewhere in my home office behind me,
yeah,
I still have Workshop in the original box with the plastic.
me as well.
I haven't even I
But
haven't even
mine's
opened it.
from paper, not plastic. It's paper. So I have the paper one. So yeah, nice.
Yeah, but so the thing at Sun, we did a lot of great innovation. We loved to make tools. We love to innovate with tools, and
But you couldn't sell
we
them.
had the tools to do everything versus integrating one tool. And so uh, it was good to launch Java Studio Creator, but the right thing would have been to actually initiate that innovation inherently in NetBeans versus creating yet another sort of called specialized IDE. And so
Yeah,
eventually we ended the innovation on Creator, took that technology as Project Matisse,
yeah.
and then injected that into
Which was
NetBeans, which is what we should have, like hindsight being 2020. That's what we should have
the
done.
visual editor for NetBeans, which was great.
Yeah. All right. Binding, drag and drop.
Yeah.
You could space and
two JSRs, right? 296 and 95. The Java. There was one as data binding, I think, and the other one as application framework. Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
You might appreciate that I already told this story on the podcast. So I wanted to have the studio workshop, a studio creator in Germany. So in order to buy it, it was not expensive, like 200 one. I would say, let's say $200 or $100. So it was not a problem. But in order to get this, I had to apply as a Sun business solution partner, whatever. What I did, I get called from Sun managers why I need it. So, and everything was approved. And then I was able to buy this. But I got, with the IDEs, a book with all the Sun hardware, which was probably more expensive than the two IDEs, right? And the cool story is, I got credit. So I actually could buy Sunfires without having any money. So I was a student back then. So the entire process was complete crazy. So I understood. So Sun had great ideas, but they couldn't sell it. So it was really hard to buy something from, at least in Europe. I did some Sun courses, and I wanted badly, to buy the hardware, the Sun machines, the Ultra Spark 8 or something. This was the tower station. And it's like, I will pay money. So I just would like to buy it. But there was no process to do it. So they probably, this was like crazy, and this is a little bit sad, I would say, because this was the beginning of the end, I would say.
Yeah. So, with great skills and great innovation, it requires a sound, business model. It just does. And you know what, I'm very refreshed with where Oracle has made its investments with Java. It's still mission critical to us. It's mission critical for many businesses out there, for developers out there. We do thoughtful innovation. We want to make sure that the last 25 years of Java has longevity for the next 25 years and beyond. And so it is it's humbling to be still associated with something after so long.
Yeah.
I know a lot of people might jump career to career, company to company, every 2 years, maybe every 4 years. I think I'm a corner case. I'm an anomaly in that even though I've, majority of my career has been with both Sun and Oracle, that relationship has been specifically on Java. Yeah. And that is not that's not something I take lightly. I'm humbled by that fact. I'm humbled by the fact that the Java team still allows me to be part of their team and try to help educate other developers and make them better versions of themselves. It is sometimes I have to take a pause and just sit back and realize just how thankful I am.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
The people I've met, the technologies I've seen, the companies, use cases that I've been exposed to, but more importantly, the community. Like I'm just, this career has taken me to so many places and allowed me to meet so many people that are more creative, more talented than I will ever be in multiple lifetimes. And that to me is the rich fabric of Java. It's not just, it's a great language and a great platform. What really gives life to Java is the people that are using it. And in so many innovative ways. It's mind-boggling. Like I can't fathom that.
Yeah. So Project Rave. And you are a raver, I guess. So
I still am.
And Project Rave. So what happened after Project Rave? So you were the IDE guy or what?
Yeah. So once we transitioned the technologies that were in Creator into NetBeans via Matisse, I did a bit of a pivot in terms of, instead of working on Java, I started building the communities. So I started investing my time in building out the Java user group program. Obviously, I wasn't the only one who did this. There's a team of us that wanted to build up the ecosystem of people that were loyal and passionate and had an affinity around Java. We created the Java Champions program, which were power users of Java who could go and educate the larger collective around why Java has value. I was able to take on the responsibility for JavaONE as a content chairperson, following in the footsteps of people that were my heroes. So like Graham Hamilton and Bill Joy and James Scott, like these people, these are the stalwarts of what Java is about, especially JavaONE. And in 2009, when I was given that responsibility, it's sort of, it leaves you speechless, because I'm never going to be of the quality of any of them, even in, 5% or 10%. They are my heroes, right? There's no way I will ever be able to emulate what they did and what they mean to Java. But to be given that responsibility to drive JavaONE for so many years was career defining for me.
Okay.
And then when I was also given the opportunity and responsibility to lead the Java evangelism program, it just taught me just how important people are. So the Java evangelists, to me, are the ones who are the forgotten heroes that has made Java so vibrant. The evangelists are the ones who would, put their personal life on pause to go travel the world, to educate others to be better Java programmers than what they were, spending more than half of your year from country to country, from city to city, giving talks, going to meetups, talking at conferences, writing blogs, writing best practices, writing blueprints. That takes a special group of individuals to do something like that. And so there have been, dozens of evangelists in the past. So, whether it's Angela Caicedo or Jim Weaver or Garrett Grunwald or Simon Ritter or Danny Coward, there's just, or Terence Barr, Alexei Balokrolov in Russia. There's so many evangelists that history doesn't necessarily remember their name, but what they've done for Java is such a priceless investment.
Do you remember the evangelist from NetBeans? I think this was from Czech. It was Roman
Strobel.
Yeah, he traveled all over the place. He was
Everywhere.
crazy. Yeah, so he was like he was one of the first evangelists who traveled everywhere. And so this was actually a nice guy. It was completely pro NetBeans,
Yes, Roman Strobel, I met when I was on the NetBeans team. I never understood how he was able to do what he did, because he did the work of like 5 people. He was always awake, regardless of where you were in the world. If you called him or sent him an email, or in the old days you would send an SMS. No one sends an SMS. Does anyone send SMSs anymore? Anyway, you would reach out to him within seconds. He would respond to you. And it could be like, 10-hour time difference. I always thought there was like 3 versions of him somewhere. He kept one version in the US, one version in in Europe, and another version in Asia. But the sheer fact that he was so passionate about what he did really was inspiring. Really was inspiring.
What's also inspiring, I don't know, Hertian Vilenga, you also know Hertian, and he's still loyal to NetBeans. Also, he has nothing, and this is also, he also pinged me, hey, we have to do something about that and whatever. He was very pro NetBeans the entire time, so it is also remarkable. So what was your actual job on JavaONE? So what you did with it? Were you responsible for the program, or what was?
So, as an event, there's always some sort of operational team that puts it on. But the responsibility of the chairperson is to literally design the program. What is the meta level theme? What is the content? What are the technical tracks? How to do content recruitment? Who's going to do the evaluation? Then getting into the actual evaluation itself, what gets selected, what doesn't get selected, who do we invite, who do we not invite, have we load balanced topics in terms of introductory, intermediary, or highly technical, because people that come to the event have different skill sets. So we want to ensure the program offered something to everyone. So if you're new to Java, was there enough information for me to continue my journey? If I was an expert, is there something where I can go and do a deep dive, either through a lab? So we wanted to load balance the event such that it would be able to talk about Java in those three lenses of beginner, intermediate, and expert. It cut across the entire breadth of what Java represented in terms of server side, mobile, client, desktop, obviously as technology moved on, in cloud, in headless devices, in cards, we just wanted to make sure the event was representative of what Java is. And more importantly, is the people, right? We wanted to ensure we had a diverse set of speakers. That was sort of one of our indirect measurements, is how diverse a talent is the world represented to JavaONE? And I always used to remember John Gage, when he was the spokesperson, he would come up on stage the very first day of the event.
Wait a second.
And he would talk about...
No, I can tell you, because I wanted to mention him. My first JavaONE was in the year 2000.
Okay.
And John Gage came to stage, Scott McNeely. This was usually the keynote, they had a chat, which I was already impressed because it was fun. And what John Gage always did, who attended the first JavaONE, stand up. And then the second, this was his thing. And he also had always a story, And he told, for instance, I remember right now is he told the story that they building like a broadband or something, and this will have big impact on Java. And he also New York Times, newspapers, and I read something, and I just wanted to tell you this. And I was deeply impressed by the guy. I had no idea what role of John Gage actually is, because for me it was more like a manager guy. But the entire setup was very impressive to me. So my very first JavaONE, just the keynote alone, right? And this one I wanted to tell you. So this was something very special. And what you even had at the JavaONE, a JavaONE newspaper. You remember that? There was an actual newspaper. So you got it was crazy for me. So this is incredible. And my first JavaONE in the year 2000 was like 35,000 attendees, where they had problems with the police, with the fire department, because it was not allowed to have so many attendees. They also mentioned this and the thing. And we had even sessions in the Mensa. There was where there was I remember Martin Fowler gave a talk about persistence, during lunch, because there was no more room.
Yes, and he was in the upper mezzanine giving the talk, so more people could attend that didn't violate the fire code.
Yeah,
of
exactly.
How many people could be in? Yes. And one of the things John Gage would also do is talk about how many attendees were there from so many countries. We have 80 countries represented here. We from this background, from this company, and it just showed you the vibrancy of the ecosystem. What I love, Adam, is...
And what also he said is, we have no much time. There's just 1 week. Just talk to your neighbor. He said, talk to your neighbor. We see something, just start the conversation right now. There's no time afterwards. This was the right thing to do, because, it was the first day, and I actually did it. So I just, if I met someone, so what are you doing here? Just, conversation. You can, and
he would say, look to your left, look to your right.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. And talk to the people next to you, because these are going to be the people you will talk to for the rest of the week.
Yeah, exactly.
And look ahead and look behind you. But
exactly.
He wanted you to connect with people, because it's one thing to sit in only on sessions, but it's that conversation, that hallway track that would give you the most value. And what I love is, those heroes of the past, the work that they have established are being carried forward by new leaders. So, George Saab, that, he runs the Java team now. He's actually one of the original members of the Java team back at Sun, and he's come back around and now leads the Java team. When he goes on stage and talks about Java, he always leans in on, the history of Java, why our design virtues matter. When we have folks like Mark Reinhold and Brian Getz, they always talk about the history of Java, making sure we're thoughtful in our evolution. So ensuring backwards compatibility is integral as we innovate for the future. Or more importantly, we have a new leader now in developer outreach, Chad Aramura.
Mm-hmm.
He's thinking about that next way to think about how to advance Java to the next generation developers. So, all of these people.
Great podcaster, Chad. There's a great podcast
Yeah.
going on, Java podcast. It's really great. So it's just
Yeah.
interesting and nice. So he does a great job.
My kudos to Chad and David Delabase,
exactly.
Who's also been part of the Java family for many years. But Chad and David have launched the Inside.Java podcast, which is brilliant because it literally gives a voice to the actual developers in development engineering to talk about their works. And so, how great is that to have a new generation of leaders?
And for me, the new Java podcast is very similar to as like JavaONE was back then. So actually, the JavaONE, I attended only the JavaONE because I wanted to attend as many talks by Sun engineers as possible because they were only at JavaONE. So JavaONE was the only conference. By the way, great job to as you as a program chair. So which I attended the entire week. So I spent from the morning session until the Birds of Feather. They stopped sometimes at 9:10. So it was my last session. So it was the entire week, and the hallway conversations happens between. So I never missed a session at JavaONE. So it was crazy motivation for me. And so it's a great job because this was a mix between, because I can listen to the other consultants on other conferences, but JavaONE was where innovation happens, or at least where I can listen to engineers, like it's called WWDC from Apple. So for me, was the JavaONE from Sun or Oracle. So it doesn't matter. There's still Java involved, and so this is why I really like Java. And I knew that some people went to JavaONE just to have the hallway conversations. I say, you're stupid. You should, go to the sessions and really, learn as much as possible. And then you can have hallway conversations after the show or prior to the show, but don't waste your time. And
right. And so you came out of a session and you'd be able to actually rub elbows with like the Stuart Markses of the world, or the Joe Darcys, or the Alex Buckleys, or the Amy Fowlers. Like all of these engineers weren't just there to give a session. They were there to engage and talk and interact with you because they learn as much from you as the attendee learned from them.
Yeah, what I learned later is the Sun engineers or Oracle engineers, they spend the entire day with Java, right? So, and we spend the entire day using Java. So what we can tell them, how we actually use Java, right? So I recognized that later, that actually we can also give something back, because at the beginning said they are so smart, so there's no way that we can do something exciting for them. Okay, one question, you don't have to answer, then we can pick another topic. What was the reaction to renaming JavaONE to CodeONE? Do you think this is a good idea?
So I'll be very pragmatic. Like everything in the universe, everything evolves.
Yeah.
You can't stay static.
Yeah.
The universe will continue to evolve whether you want it to or not. And so JavaONE to me will always be appreciated. No one is ever going to forget the value of what it meant and represented. CodeONE, that naming convention change, although it can be controversial, CodeONE continues to showcase the brilliance and the value of what was in JavaONE, but even more, right? So Java is a first-class citizen. It's the first amongst peers. Yeah. But there's also other areas that also need to rise up that are of equal value to developers, whether you're using Java or something else. So, topics like DevOps and cloud integration and containerization, these are all meaningful. Like they may not be rooted in Java, but they influence that sphere. And so I will always have a love and appreciation for JavaONE, what it did for me as an attendee.
Yeah.
What it's done for me in terms of my career. CodeONE continues to shine the best of what JavaONE was. And, the universe continues to evolve. Let's see where CodeONE goes.
No, this is what I get. So the reasons are clear. But JavaONE was a really strong brand. So from the marketing perspective, this is what I never understood, why someone is doing that. And what I thought is, why not, just introducing CodeONE? A JavaONE would be just a small piece of the entire CodeONE. So you can have DevOps one and PHP one and whatever one, Oracle DB one, right? So you have an umbrella CodeONE, but there is still, a view. So this would be a fun, but just because right now, if you tell CodeONE, it is no one knows what it actually is, and JavaONE was a strong brand.
What's interesting is obviously we live in a new world right now that's been impacted by the world somewhat shutting down in terms of our access to be face-to-face. So here at Oracle, we've introduced a new online conference called Oracle Developer Live.
Mhm.
And that umbrella event series has very specific editions on a specific topic. So our first event was purely on database, which
Okay.
was held back in August.
Yeah.
So we did a Dev Live database. We then did an inaugural event just on Java, Dev Live Java, which was in September. In October, we did a Dev Live on MySQL, and then more recently, we did a Dev Live for cloud in November.
Okay,
And
this is a good idea.
yeah, and so we're going to have the second instance of that Java edition, at least tentatively. We're looking in the March timeframe of 2021 to do Oracle Dev Live Java again
Yeah.
in 2021. Because listen, when the world is closed, we still need to be able to communicate.
Yeah.
We need to be able to educate and share. And so this gives us a facility to do it in an online world. And yes, sometimes it can be a bit suffocating. We have so many online conferences, but again, if we don't connect even virtually, we
Yeah.
miss an opportunity. It's
Yeah.
a missed opportunity.
What I meant is, if I would have trademark to Woodstock, I would keep, naming my concert Woodstock, just, because I have it. So this was what I wanted,
Here's what I would say in that regard. For those that are passionate about naming convention, be more vocal about it, because the more vocalization, then that's obviously how change happens.
Yeah. Another thing, I think it was the year 2010. So obviously it was second JavaONE as a chair. This was the year, what I remember, when Steve Jobs died. Remember that? And you delivered the keynote, and you were really sad. And for me, Steve Jobs, I mean, it was not as sad as for you. So now the question is, why you were so? I mean, why it touched you that much? Because I remember you were on the stage and said, "Okay, Steve Jobs died," and no, there was 1 minute, keep quiet, and so okay, Steve Jobs, okay, he did remarkable things, but I never would thought that you are that sad about the death of Steve Jobs. So why?
Yeah, it's still even emotional now. The day we found out, that the night we found out was challenging because the next day was the Java community keynote, and the question was, do we even hold the community keynote on such a somber situation, even though it had nothing to do with JavaONE or Java? In the ecosystem, the technology industry, he was extremely meaningful to the world we live in. But we continued to go forward and do the community keynote. We decided about an hour before the keynote started, let's at least have a moment of silence to honor him.
Yeah.
And which, by the way, Steve Jobs was, well, I never met him personally. I've been in, I'm not going to name drop, never met him one-on-one, but been to some of his keynotes, been to events. He's, you see someone of that stature there.
But Steve Jobs attended JavaONE in the year 2000, right? He was on stage with Scott McNeely. So this was...
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. So like you're in the audience and you see
my
God, like this person, this very important person is in front of me. But we decided to hold a moment of silence. I was keynoting that event, and it was a struggle, especially if, like many of us, and it's kind of sad this happens, but if you've ever been impacted by someone in your personal life that has passed away from cancer, it just brings it to the forefront of your mind. It really just it was a moving moment.
Okay.
And I'm really happy the event organizers allowed us the opportunity to remember him, hold a moment of silence for him. But we moved on. We that day, you might remember, the Java Posse came on stage afterwards, and they had a segment. We had a great leader like Donald Smith, who was from the Eclipse Foundation, who came back to Oracle. He led a lot of the panel discussions as far as where the innovation around Java is happening, and so we carried forward because I think it was the right thing to do.
Yeah, it was, because for me it was not that big deal. I mean, I was sad, of course, but not like I said, okay, why it happens, because there was people. I am from Germany, from all over the world. I don't think that everyone was that sad as you were, right? Because you were more impacted by that So, and are you a huge Steve Jobs fan, or what? You personally?
Yeah, like I said, I don't know him. I know,
No,
but I
but
know his work. But I know
yeah,
his work, right?
yeah,
And he took a company that was unsure where it was going to go
sure,
back in the 90s, and what he was able to do. And obviously he didn't do it by himself, but every company needs a leader. Every company needs a North Star to
yeah,
direct them.
yeah,
And Steve Jobs was that North Star that gave Apple a direction, a
yeah,
single-minded focus to do something really well,
yeah.
well executed, that was approachable, that had value, and he was able to build mindshare within the team to focus on that destination. And so, I have a great deal of respect for him and leaders like him.
When you stop your JavaONE involvement, so with Code One or later? So when was your last, your last
My last
JavaONE?
event
Yeah,
is there is no last event, so I'm still continuing to help design and execute Java programs here at Oracle. Most recently with Oracle Developer Live, so I have the responsibility to basically put the Java edition in motion. I continue to work to help build out the ecosystem with growing Java user groups and the conversation within those user groups, interaction with the Java champions such as yourself to foster greater collaboration. But my job straddles both the business, the
yeah.
commercial, and the community side. So half of my brain is dedicated to making sure our customers that use Java continue to use Java. The other side of my brain is to ensure the community that's passionate about Java continues to remain passionate about Java. So, I put 100% of effort in both.
Yeah, but what's your business role exactly? So what's are you? I don't know how to call it. Customer
I guess
relations.
every company may have a term for it, but I'm a product manager for Java. It's
Oh,
just a,
you're a big deal, product manager. So I have to be nicer to you, right now.
no, no, no. So I don't get hung up with titles because a title never really can articulate the value of what someone does. And so,
But it
it,
gives an idea what you're actually doing.
yeah,
So if you say
yeah,
product
it
manager with
gives
Java, I can imagine what. Yeah. So now the
it gives a
feedback to you,
framework.
because I was already a little bit down on JavaONE and CodeONE, but I have to say, um, Sun and Oracle. Obviously, I can tell that I'm independent. I of course liked Sun a little bit more, and the question is, the reason is Sun was crazier. At Sun we were at JavaONE and talking with evangelists. There's always something new, and you never knew what happened, right? And Oracle is more predictable, so it's like serious business. So for me, Oracle is more like military, and Sun was more like a hippie shop, So so this is like in Oracle you can say okay, everything is like business and decision driven, and Sun was more like more feeling, community and stuff like that. But
Yeah,
having said that, I think Oracle did a great job for Java recently, with all the native efforts and startup times, and even different GraalVM and all. It raises awareness of Java, and it getting more and more popular. This is the thing. So it is actually a great job, I have to say. And I'm working with huge companies, and they still like Java. So
yeah,
it is. And what happens even now in this year, we are moving some strange technologies back to Java because no one likes experiments anymore. So they would like to have something reliable. And instead of experimenting with something which may work, it's probably more fun, but no one knows whether it actually works. So
yeah.
yeah,
I the question is, do you want to be cool or do you want to be constructive? And it's easy to be cool.
yeah,
It's easy to come up with bleeding edge innovation, but does that have long-term value? Like for me, even whether you're an enterprise or a developer, what you're investing your time in, you want to have confidence that what I'm doing now will have value 5 years from now,
yeah,
from 10 years from now. And so we want to do that thoughtfully, right?
yeah,
So you're right. Sun was a bit more loose,
Yeah,
and Oracle is a bit more structured. But I think structure is important because, as anything, as we grow up, we want to be responsible. And I think Oracle is taking a very responsible approach to Java, but not forgetting that innovation continues forward. And the amount of innovation that has been injected in Java just in the last 2 years
yeah,
is sometimes can be viewed as greater than what the last 10 years of Java has been.
it
We
is.
look at how Java is being designed to address modern hardware architectures, or how Java has applicability in machine learning or in big data, or as you had mentioned in startup time,
Yeah,
or more importantly, how are we making the language more usable by those that write the code? Like, how are we simplifying the syntax?
yeah,
How to make it more not just readable, but more writable? Because
yeah,
at the end of the day, someone is going to have to maintain that code.
yeah,
And don't you want to have that code to be written in as efficient way as possible and as readable a way as possible? So, those are what I would call constructive approaches to innovation versus just cool approaches to
yeah.
innovation.
And not only cool
So
approaches.
it's
So
part of growing up.
yeah, yeah. But what impressed me deeply, because prior to JavaONE, I only read the articles, and then I saw James Gosling with the Harley Davidson on his T-shirt, shooting T-shirts, and then John Gage with I don't know, it was just crazy. And there was how was it called, After Darkness or something, the party
The
JavaONE,
After Dark Party.
the After Dark. So which was not a party, it was actually an event. So they were fighting robots and whatever. So complete crazy stuff. So and this impresses, of course, young developers, right?
Yeah.
So if you're watching a structured company, it is at the beginning not as exciting. This is what I wanted to tell. And this is hard, but it is in the longer term, of course, more responsible, because as I told you, in order to buy from Sun, an IDE, I had to become a business partner as a student and was able to order a Sunfire or whatever machine, which I never understood. And I thought, now I'm an important person because I can buy whatever hardware I like. And the truth was, Sun was not able, to sell CDs via internet. So this is like,
What I would say is this. Here's what I would say, Adam, which is, as we're being thoughtful and constructive with our innovation, if there's ways that we can also inject a bit of coolness
yeah,
in that,
yeah,
I would love to hear about some of those ideas, whether it's from you through the mechanism of your podcast, or anyone that's listening in the ecosystem to your podcast. If there are ideas on how we can become not just constructive but cool, I would love to hear about your ideas on all of that, and not just you, but all the listeners.
yeah.
Cool is a relative term. We're open to ideas, and so the more we hear about it, the more it gives us a chance to evaluate. So share often, and share transparently. I have an open ear to it.
Yeah, perfect. Thank you. So where people can find you, because I have to start my next show, AXTV. People are all...
Sure. The easiest way to find me is on Twitter. There's multiple ways everyone wants to be reached and contacted, but for me, I find the easiest way is just to find me on Twitter. Follow me, I'll follow you back. We can have conversations over DM or even in the public forum if it makes sense. But yeah, at Sharath_Chander, I'm on Twitter, and I look forward to meeting as many of your listeners as possible, Adam.
Yeah, perfect. And the podcast is Java Inside, right?
Inside.java.
Inside.java, exactly. .java, not bad. .java, oh.
Inside.java. So it should be easy to remember. Just
Yeah.
type it in your browser, inside.java, and all of the work that Chad and David and others have put into that program will be accessible at your fingertips.
Oh, perfect. Well, thank you. It was really a pleasure to talk with you. Lots of fun.
Adam, happy holidays. Thank you for the time, and appreciate the invitation.